production team to come down? Okay. So we're starting a sermon series today called A Better. It's like a better ... A better, and so we'll unpack it as we go through. Chris, I'll hand this over to you so you can work everything out as it goes through. So we're starting this series called A Better, and we're gonna. What did I not do? Okay, A Better. We're starting A Better. A better use of the remote. A better pastor with more technology skills. That's what we're starting. And so, the question would be, how many of you have used that in a sentence, Rani? Have you ever looked at something like, there's got to be a better way to do this? Yeah, how many of you said there's got to be a better way to do something, right? There's got to be a better way to do marriage, to do conflict. There's got to be a better way to do, I don't know what it is, but we've all probably asked that question. Last week was Mother's Day. And so for Mother's Day, I asked Sage the night before because I'm a good husband. I said, what do you want for breakfast for Mother's Day? And she said, I would like eggs Benedict. I said, okay, because I'm a French-trained chef, I know how to do all of this. Oui, oui. And anyway, so I know how to make eggs Benedict. I know how to make a hollandaise sauce, but I went to bed frustrated a little bit, but excited at the same time because I love hollandaise sauce. I love hollandaise sauce about as much as I like milk tart. So for the South Africans, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and so that's my love language, hollandaise sauce, milk tart, and I'm a happy person. Anyways, and so I went to bed frustrated because it's a process. So I'm like, this is like I'm going to have to simmer some water in a saucepan, and then I've got to have this stupid bowl, and I'm going to put some egg yolks in there, and I'm going to have to whisk, and then put other stuff, and I'm going to have to do this without curdling anything. And last time I did it, I curdled stuff, and I get really annoyed when that happens, and it's just not a good space, because I'm like, I've got to start this whole process all over again. This is going to take 15, 20 minutes, but it is what it is. And so I got up that morning, and I awoken the children. So I got our 3 girls up, and we are making Mum breakfast, and it's going to be eggs, hollandaise sauce. Georgia just starts drooling because she knows what that is, and she loves it about as much as I do. And I got up, and I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to make this stuff. There's got to be a better way to do it. So I jumped on and I Googled other ways of innovative ways to make hollandaise sauce, and you know what? I found it, and it's really simple. You put it in the microwave, and you know what? Instead of taking 15 to 20 minutes, it takes about 1.5 minutes to make hollandaise sauce. Wow. Adam's hiding under the chair at the moment. He's like, I cannot believe this. Everything is wrong. And so I discovered that there was a better way to make hollandaise sauce. And I bet that you've, maybe not hollandaise sauce, but you've looked at, there's got to be a better way of whatever it is. There's got to be a better way. And you know what? I am convinced that what the Bible highlights and what Jesus shows us is that there is a better way to live and do life. And that better way chiefly is found in that if we follow Jesus, and not just follow him as far as he's the thing that I've put my hand up to so I don't go to a bad place when I die, so I don't arrive in hell when I die, but if we choose to follow him, in every season, every situation, and every happening, he will lead us to a better something. It'll be a better life. And here's what I'm convinced of, that following Jesus arrives us at a better life, but it's not necessarily going to be the more comfortable all the time, or the easy, or the simple, or it's not going to be in the moment the most joyful all the time. Sometimes it's going to come at a cost, but the guarantee of what I am convinced of and what I've discovered the older I've grown and the more I've developed a relationship with Jesus is, while it may not be comfortable, it may not be all of that at the start, it always leads us, following Jesus always leads us to a better something. It always leads us to a better insert whatever it is. And so over the next little bit, we're going to unpack and we're going to go for a little bit with this series. And so, but some of the things we'll look at is this, like a better fight, being better conflict. You think that's funny? It's like a better fight. Like in relationships, there will be a fight at some point. It doesn't have to be boxing gloves and should never be boxing gloves, but by gosh, we should be good at doing conflict. Better conflict, better fight, a better relationship, being marriage, be it dating, be it just friendships, like all that, a better bank balance, like finances, a better mind, like a better. And so we're going to unpack and look at all these different things that what Jesus talks about and what the Bible talks about, that if we follow the King, if we follow the one that we put our hand up to say that he is our Savior, if we follow him, he will lead us to a better life. And I'm convinced of this, that if you sell your life out for Jesus, that he will lead you to a better life, a better happening than what you could ever begin to imagine. And so that's what we're looking at over the next couple of weeks, and we're starting with this idea, like a better joy. He wants to lead us towards a better, all of these things, but we're starting here with, he wants to lead us on a better joy. And so to start with, perhaps the question would be like as far as what's the difference between joy and happiness? Because the two are the same, but the two are the same, but then they're different at the same time. And I was wrestling this week on how do I unpack what this looks like. And one thing that I read that just clicked and felt like it made sense was this, that happiness is like the weather. It changes. Well, it's not changing in Echuca. It just never seems to rain. But like happiness is like the weather. It changes based on what's happening around us. Like happiness changes based on I got that promotion or I didn't get that promotion or I got the guy or I didn't get the guy or I got the grades. I don't know. Happiness changes based on what's happening around us. But the flip side of that, so that's happiness. Joy, on the other hand, is more like the climate. It's overall atmosphere. It's the overall atmosphere of your life, regardless as of today's forecast. Regardless as to what's happening, that is what joy is. It's something that is cemented in our hearts, in our minds, in our lives. And so the big thing, if you were to take one thing away from this morning, it would be this. It'd be this. The joy of the Lord is not the absence of problems, but it's the presence of perspective. If I could get you to take one thing, remember one thing, it would be this. The joy of the Lord is never found in the absence of something, but rather the direction and the focus of where you place your mind, where you place your gaze. And so what I want to do this morning is I want to unpack this story of these two people who go through an incredibly trying, at least in this part of their story, 24 hours. And they find themselves in, like, very innocently in a really complex situation and outworking, but they choose joy. They choose joy, and their joy isn't found in everything outworking well, or it's not found in the absence of things, but it's found in their deliberate focus of what the King is doing, has been doing, and the belief that he's going to continue to outwork that. And so I want to take us through this story of these two characters in the Bible from the book of Acts, and their name is Paul and Silas. And what happens to Paul and Silas, as we're about to find out in the story, is that they go from a good day to a really bad day, and their really bad day ends with them in chains, in a dungeon, in prison. And while they're there, they do something that's just absolutely stupid. They start singing and praying. I know we're good Christians and that's what we should do, but let's be honest, like, that's not what we do. But they end up doing that, and then out of that, something incredible happens. And I believe that the key of what they end up doing is that they focus on not the problems that they're in, but they focus on their perspective, and that is the joy of the Lord, of what he has already brought, already doing, already outworking in their lives. Can I have the house lights up a little bit more, please? You can lift them a fair bit. It's pretty dark for me. And that'd be fantastic. So, and I believe, this is what I'm convinced of. As we go through the story this morning, that some of you are going to find your story, your figurative story, outworking in their literal story. This is literally happening to them, but some of you are going to see your life outworking figuratively in their story. And so let's jump straight into it from Acts 16, from verse 16. One day, as we were going about our business, going to the place of prayer, we met a slave girl who had a spirit that enabled her to tell the future. She earned something, and she was doing this. She earned a lot of money for her master. Obviously, like, this was effectively like a party trick. She could go somewhere and she could tell people their future, and then people cottoned on that everything that she said became true. And then because of that, she was able to charge on behalf of her master to be able to do that, and he would make money. And so he would send her out to go about telling the future to make him money, and like he had found a good gig in this girl. And so she followed Paul and the rest of us shouting that these men, and she's telling everything that is the truth. She's not lying about anything, and she says, these men are the servants of the Most High God, and that they have come to tell you how to be saved, and that is key here, how to be saved. We're going to come back to that at the end. How to be saved. This is what she's saying, that these men are telling you how you can do that. And this went on day after day until Paul got exasperated. He gets irritated and upset about it. Not that she's saying the right thing, but because of the oppressing spirit that was oppressing her behind it. And so he hears all of this going on to where he turns around to the demon within her and he tells it, he says, I command in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And instantly it leaves. But there's a problem. And the problem is because this girl's making a lot of money for her master. And now his business model has fallen apart. And that's not fun, and that's not enjoyable, that's none of that. And so her master's hopes now of wealth are completely gone. They are non-existent. They are non-existent. So he gets upset, and so they grabbed Paul and Silas, and they dragged them before the authorities in the marketplace. This is problem one. Problem one of realistically 6 problems that turn up in this day, and it's absolutely crazy. Problem one is that they dragged them before the authorities in the marketplace, and then a mob formed quickly against Paul and Silas and the city officials. This is like problem 2. They dragged, now there's a mob. Problem 3, they stripped them and began beating them with wood, which is not fun. You're dragged before everyone, you're stripped naked, and now they start beating you with wooden rods, but they don't stop there. They were severely beaten. Like they were beaten, and then they were severely beaten, which is like problem 3, and then they were thrown into prison, which is problem 4. The jailer was ordered to make sure that they didn't escape because these Christians were seen to be sneaky, like they followed this person that they claimed rose from the dead. So like, we need to make sure that there's nothing that happens here. And so they ordered the jailer, make sure nothing happens. And the jailer put them in the inner dungeon and clamped their feet with like chains. And so they've gone from a good day. They've gone from a good day to a really bad day that is escalated fast. How many of you have, like, you haven't experienced this, but you've experienced that moment where the only thing that you could say is like, well, that escalated fast. How many of you said that? You've had that meeting with someone, you're like, there was no way in my mind did I expect that that's where that was going to go. And you walk out of that and all you can do is like, that escalated fast. If you're a parent, you've probably experienced it, and like the conversation might go something like you grab the kids and you say to the kids, so on the weekend. And then it's been a busy couple of weeks, busy month, busy whatever, and then it's just meltdown. Well, I don't want to do on the weekend. I don't want to because I want to be this. I want to. And it's just major meltdown. And you're like, when they finish, it's like, so on the weekend, we got nothing on. We thought we'd go to the movies. And then you walk away and you're like, that escalated really fast. Like that got out of control really, really quick. And that's what's happening right here to them, is that this escalates out of control incredibly quickly. Like this went from something good, setting someone free, to them being thrown not just in prison, but in a dungeon with chains on their legs, probably beaten to within an inch of their life. Like that escalated, that day escalated fast. And we have days like this equally. Maybe not that, but figuratively like that. Like the day starts good. The day starts good until 10 o'clock. And I don't know what happens at 10 o'clock, just 10 o'clock turns around. And at 10 o'clock, you may have a meeting with your boss, and your boss is kind of a jerk. Sorry, Kat. It's a problem. And so Kat has a meeting with her boss, and her boss is me. And then her day turns to rubbish because she stepped into my office. So maybe that's you, or maybe the phone rings and you get that unexpected call that you weren't expecting, that something's happening, something's gone down, or at 10 o'clock you look at your bank balance and like every single bill in the space of your existence has come out all at once, and your account is negative what it was 3 days ago. Right? Like it's one of those happenings that turns up, and it's not fun, it's not cool, or you turn up to school. And there's that kid that they just constantly frustrate you. And for Miley, it's her sister Georgia. She just can't escape her. Like they're just constantly there. And it was a good day until she discovered that we're going to be in the same class together, and now it's not. Like it's those happenings that turn up. But maybe it's not just the day that turns up. Maybe it's that year. Like it's not the day that started good and turned pear-shaped. It's a year. It was a good year until like February turned up, or it's a good year until like April turned up. And then when April turned up, then everything fell apart and everything started melting down. It wasn't good anymore. And it turns into this cascade effect of a nightmare. I remember in August 15th, 2015, my youngest brother was just back from his honeymoon. And obviously he'd just been married, and 9 months before that wedding, my middle brother was married, and Sage, my wife, and I, we'd been married for, I don't know how long by then. I don't know, but we had been married for a considerable amount of time. Enough for Sage to start doubting whether she made the right decision. But anyway, so that was a joke. She made the right decision, by the way. So we were meeting together as a family, and this was going to be the first time as a family we're all going to get together. Like as we're all married off now, we'd all said I do, and this was our first time getting back together as a family after my youngest brother had got married. He was just coming back from his honeymoon. We're all meeting at Mum and Dad's to have a family dinner. And Sage and I went there, and we had lunch with Mum and Dad. We went there early, and it was a good day. In fact, the night before that, I hung out with friends. I remember the conversation that happened vividly. It was a good night. And then the next day, at about 1 o'clock after dinner, I got a phone call that effectively told me that my brother and sister-in-law had been in a car accident, and we were to meet them in the hospital. And when we got there, what ended up happening over the course of the next couple of hours, we found that our sister-in-law had passed away, and that my brother was in a really bad space. Like that went from a good year, incredibly good year, an incredible 9 months of marriages and celebrations and new people joining the family, incredibly good season, to an incredibly not just dark moment, but a dark season. Right? Sometimes that's what happens in life. Jesus even says it like this to his disciples, just before he goes to the cross. He says, I've told you all this. All these good things, all these bad things. I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me here on earth. Because here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows. Other translation says, here on earth, you're going to have trouble. It's not always going to be nice, fun, simple, joyful. It's not always going to feel that way. Because life is often difficult. It's often discouraging and disappointing. In this life, you'll have many troubles. In this life, at some point, you're going to find yourself in prison. Not a literal prison, but a figurative prison, hopefully. In this life, like this sort of stuff pops up. This sort of stuff turns up. But joy doesn't always, this is the thought, joy doesn't always naturally bubble up out of our souls because life happens. And I think the complexity that we find is that we're constantly looking for happiness that is constantly ebbing and flowing up and down based on what happens. And we're confusing joy and happiness, and then we feel depleted because it's like not always bubbling like we think it should be, because the seasons of life happen. And the seasons of life turn up. The joy of the Lord is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of perspective. It's meant to be this, where you place your focus. One of these guys that is in prison, that has just been beaten with rods, beaten within an inch of his life with rods, is in prison, that is in this dark, dingy corner, stuck with chains. He ends up writing a letter to the church in Philippi, And he says this to them. He says, here's one thing. Here's one final thing, dear brothers. I want you to do this. Fix your thoughts on what is true and what is honorable. Fix your thoughts. Like hang your thoughts on something. That's a deliberate effort to put your thoughts on something. What is true, what is honorable, what is right and pure and lovely and admirable. And he says, think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Think about, meditate on, go over in your mind the things that what God is bringing into your life and what God is wanting to do. Think about these things. So the question would be this, is like what are you focusing on? What are you focusing on? Like, what are you focusing on when that teacher's a jerk? When your friends aren't being friends, when nothing's going over well, when there's problems at work, when there's problems at home, when there's problems in your marriage, when there's financial stresses, when there's what, I don't know, but what is it that you are focusing on? Because this is what I know that life does for all of us, because it does it for me, is that life sends thoughts your way. And you'll be overwhelmed by the thoughts that just come at you by the circumstances of life. What Paul would say is fix your thoughts, focus your thoughts, deliberately place your thoughts. And that's what Paul and Silas are doing right there in the dungeon. Life may not put you in a physical prison. Life may not put you in a physical prison, but it will at times put you in an emotional one. You may not do anything stupid enough, and my prayer is that you don't. That you literally get there. But life at times, you'll feel like you're living in an emotional prison where tragedy turned up. When we lost our sister-in-law, it was like 6 months plus of living in a prison. When crap turns up, it can feel like you are in this never-ending prison. When life's not out working in the way that you think it should be or felt it should be. That's what it feels like, a literal prison or a figurative prison. Around midnight, this is nuts. Paul and Silas, they're in the prison. And around midnight, so this is night one in the prison. What would you do? Beck, what would you do? Night one in the prison, what would you do?
Be pretty scared.
I'd be pretty scared. Anyone else? Belinda? I would cry. I'm a man, so I wouldn't. I would cover my face and bawl. That's what I would do. As far as no, I wouldn't want to be doing that. But yes, how many of you at midnight, your first night, you do this? You start singing songs and psalms and hymns and praying. How many of you do that? No. Maybe you're praying. But how many of you are singing hymns with the suggestion here is that there's something joyful happening? Who's going to be celebrating at midnight on the first night in prison? Anyone? Who's going to be panicking the first night in prison? Who's going to be working out their strategy to get out? Who's going to be filing their way out? So you are only singing the first night in prison if you're maybe in a different type of prison. And it's an emotional one where you're not perhaps in your right mind. That's the only place normal people would start doing what happens here. But around midnight, Paul and Silas are praying, singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening. The other prisoners were listening. So this is what I would be doing, especially with what's happening here. There's no way I'd be singing. I'd be having some choice words with God. Very choice words with God. That was a good day, and I don't know how you have brought this out of that. That would be my choice words, right? And I'd love to think that they weren't, but they would probably start there. I'm human just like us. We all wrestle with this. But the thing that I'd probably really focus on is that it wouldn't perhaps be the choice words. It wouldn't perhaps be what I can celebrate. It wouldn't be what I can pray, so I'd tick that box and then I'd move on. And at some point, because I got nothing else to do, just stare at the chains around my wrists and ankles and stuff like that, I would start staring at the other prisoners or thinking of the other prisoners and not with compassion, but loathing at them of everything they have that I don't have. Like, I'm in a dungeon. They're not. They're in their normal cell. I'm in the dungeon. I'm in solitary confinement. They are not in solitary confinement. They don't have chains. I have chains. That person, like Harley he was in the prison with me, and he got more food than me. And I'd start looking at that. He got more food than I did. They didn't treat Tony as bad as me. Evie only she got tapped on the wrist. That was it, because she's so sweet and lovely. Not me. Like, they flogged me to an inch of my life. I would start focusing on everything that everyone else has. And this is what I've noticed about me. And this isn't about you. This is only me. I'm the only one that struggles with this. That I start noticing the things about everyone else around me, and I'm not in my figurative prison until I start seeing the people around me that have something else. And then all of a sudden, I put myself in an emotional prison, and because I start comparing my happenings to their happenings. Right? And then I wind up with this problem. The thief of all joy is comparison. You may not be in prison, but the moment you start comparing your life with the person next to you, you will wind up in prison. And this happens over and over again. You may not be literally there, but you'll figuratively arrive there in an instant, in a second. And even if you are there, you'll find yourself in solitary confinement, inside of solitary confinement, inside of solitary confinement. Like, that's like the Matrix, like 3 layers deep. It will be bad. We love camping. How many of you guys like camping? No. How many of you loathe camping? You're allowed to celebrate if you don't like camping. It's okay. We shall pray for you afterwards. We really enjoy camping. And so we like, as a family, we've got these 4 other families in particular that will go with camping consistently. And we've been friends with these 4 other families for yonks. And so, like, I was friends with all of these before I even met Sage. So it's coming up 30 years I've known them. 20 plus years Sage and I've been friends with them. We did youth ministry together. We planted youth ministry together. We did church together. We've raised all our children together. We have done life together, like long stretches, periods of life. And we all live like in different parts of the country and globe now. But we all get back together twice a year and we go camping. And all of us have got camping trailers. Now, 3 of us, of the 4, we have no-name camper trailers. And they're bits and bobs. Like, you make it work, you put this here, you invent this to go here. And what I've discovered about no-name, no-brand camper trailers is, number 1, they're cheap, which is fantastic. But secondly, they take a long time to set up. A long time to set up. And so when we turn up, right, and it is a big setup. And so for us, especially with ours, we have to pull every single thing out of the camper in order to set the camper up. And then when we pack it down, it's exactly the same, but in reverse order. And it's amazing how that everything fitted, but now it doesn't fit. Yep. And then so on top of that, like, there's a lot of orders being barked. Never by Sage. There's a lot of orders being barked at children, at animals, at anything in there, like, as far as you need help with this, you need to do this, like, because it's a big job. And then we have this awning, and it's a Taj Mahal of awnings, but you need a doctorate degree in engineering to be able to put it up without writing your spouse's certificate of divorce. It is so hard. It is so complex. And all 3 of us, out of the 4, we have camper trailers that we love them, but they're a frustration. And we spend time leading up to the camp. We change things. We address the solar issues. We address, like, to make everything as simple and as simplistic as we possibly can. And then we get there and it's all like, this is good. And we set up and we sit down. We don't sit down, we fall down. We're so exhausted. And we admire everything. And like we're loving it. This is fantastic. I love the creations that are made on the camper. And then it feels like a hovercraft turns up. Because the 4th one, if you watch this, I love you. The 4th friend, he has a Patriot camper. Oh my gosh, is that good? I'm about to explain to you how good it is. The name should say it all, Rani. Patriot campers. No name. Patriot campers, no brand. Like, it's like you can't compare the two. And so when they turn up, and it's like if you're trying to get through the creek and yours is like clunk, 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 clunk. It's like it hovers from the sky above and just plants itself down. And then they get out like relaxed as anything. And then they flip a lid, they wind the jack, he unzips a thing, and then with one finger he walks this awning around like this. And in 5 minutes, he's sitting down enjoying his life. Right? That's exactly right. The audacity of someone. The audacity. And here's the thing. The three of us, we are there, so excited about everything that we've created, the add-ons we've done. Then he turns up, and then all of a sudden our solar's not working. Oh, your solar's not working. Come and plug your fridge into mine. Oh, you all have got solar problems. I've got so much solar. Just put it all into my system, and I'll have 6 fridges running. There won't be any problems. And so you are convinced you've got a great setup until the Patriot turns up, and then all of a sudden you want to burn everything. And I start making lists about how I'm going to destroy our camper when I get home. And then you know what it is? You know what it is? It's the comparison. Comparison is the thief of all joy. We are so happy, so thrilled about what it is that we have until we see something someone else has. This is what I've discovered with my life with comparison. I've found things that I didn't even want, never wanted it, until I saw someone else have it, and then I need it and I must have it, and because I don't have it, my life isn't fulfilled. Right? That's what a comparison does. It is the thief of all joy. It robs us. It destroys us. So if I'm in the prison, if I'm there, I'm probably looking at and I'm probably focusing on the prisoners and everything they have that I don't. A better joy isn't about changing your circumstances from no brand camper to Patriot camper, from whatever it is. It's not about changing your circumstances. It's about changing your perspective of what it is that you are focusing on, who it is that you are focusing on. Thought is this, pithy statement. Fish forget that they are wet. Likewise, we forget that we are blessed. Fish forget that they are wet, living in the ocean, living in the waterways, living in wherever. They forget it. And likewise, we forget that we are blessed. And like Psalms 23 puts it like this: you prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessing. Note that, overflows. It's not filling up. It's not will overflow. It's not yet to overflow. Someday will overflow. My cup overflows with blessing. It's a current, present tense, happening reality. My cup overflows with blessing. But here's the thing. What we end up doing is we focus on the blessings that everyone else's get, or everyone else has, or everyone else is living in, and we forget the blessings that are actively happening in our own lives. Most of you will be aware, some of you won't. Like I had a bit of a burnout moment last year. And in the burnout moment last year, one of the things that Sage got me to do was to start focusing on some things that I can be grateful for. And so she got me this diary. And this diary had flowers all over it, which is problematic because one of my struggles was I didn't feel like a man anymore. And so she gives me this journal, and it's covered in flowers. And I'm like, I'm trying to feel manly right now. But anyways, you flip it over, and it was this. She said to me, I want you to every day write down 3 things you can be grateful for. 3 things that you can be grateful for. And day 1, day 2, day 3, that was easy. Like, I've got a wife, I've got kids, like as far as finding stuff. But it got harder and harder and harder. And every day it was a battle to open up this flowery thing and do this, like, I felt like unmanly practice and process. But ultimately what I discovered it started doing was it started redirecting my gaze to noticing this, that my cup is already overflowing. It may not be in the way that I'm expecting it or wanting it or anticipating it to happen now, but it is already overflowing. Just like a fish is already wet, you're already blessed. If you live in the presence of the King, if you're a Christian, your cup is already overflowing with blessings. we just don't look at it enough because our perspective is somewhere else. And generally it lands in comparison, and then comparison steals the joy that we are supposed to be living in. So for them, they're in that place. They're in that dungeon. Paul and Silas are in that dungeon, and then they're singing, they're praying, and then suddenly they have that suddenly moment. And this is what so many of us want. We want that complete breakthrough because we're living in that figurative prison. We want that moment where everything comes undone, where everything works out, where everything plays out. We just want it at the click of the fingers. But what I worked out with that flowery journal is that it's a process. It's a process of renewing my mind. Romans 12 talks about it. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing of your mind, redirecting your perspective, redirecting your focus. Where you're redirecting it? Redirecting it back to the King. Redirecting it back to the King, what he's doing in your life, what he has done in your life, what he's brought in your life. James, Jesus' brother, highlights that every good and perfect gift are gifts given to us by God. Redirecting our focus to what it is that God is already doing in our lives. And as simplistic as it might be, that I have a family that loves me, that I have air in my lungs, they are blessings given me from God that I need to remind myself with so I can stand there and shout and sing and proclaim that the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so they have this suddenly moment. Suddenly, they're in that place where they're singing, proclaiming, remembering, reminding themselves. And suddenly there was a massive earthquake and the prison was shaken to its foundations. Meaning this, that they were able to be liberated, which is what so many of us want. When that phone rings at 10 o'clock in the morning, when you meet with your boss, when tragedy strikes, we're wanting freedom. But that freedom doesn't come without positioning the King where he's supposed to be in our lives and redirecting our focus, redirecting our minds to him. Suddenly. And all the doors were immediately flew open, and the chains of every prisoner, they fell off, and the jailer woke up to see the prison doors wide open, and he assumed that prisoners had escaped, and so he drew his sword, and he's going to kill himself because this is going to be the end of him anyways because he's let the prisoners escape. And Paul cried out, and he shouted to him, "Stop, don't kill yourself because we are all here. Everyone's here." So the jailer, he called for the lights and he ran to the dungeon to where they are in the shackles, and he found that there's no chains on them. The doors are open and they are all still there, and he fell down trembling before Paul and Silas, and he brought them out and he asked them, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" What must I do to be saved? Because here's the thing. They were in a literal dungeon, and he has this realization right now that I am in a figurative dungeon and I want to be set free from it as well. And what I find so fascinating is that this story starts with a slave girl proclaiming that these people know the path to salvation, of how to be saved, and it gets to this point asking, what must I do to be saved? And right in the middle of it, they're displaying what one must do. Celebrate, remind, pray, sing. Celebrate, remind, pray, sing. Be grateful, celebrate, pray, sing. We overcomplicate all of this. Realistically, it says, they replied, Paul and Silas, it's simple. If you want salvation, if you want your pathway to heaven, if you want to be liberated for eternity, it looks like this. Believe in the Lord Jesus and you'll be saved, along with everyone in your household. But what they show goes deeper than that. If you want your ticket to eternity, this is all it takes. But if you want your ticket to a freedom that begins now, it takes this plus renewing your mind back towards the King and following the King in every day, in every way, in every space, no matter how uncomfortable it is. That looks like celebrating when life's gone pear-shaped. That looks like being joyful when you don't want to be. That looks like reminding yourself that you're just as blessed as the fish is wet. That looks like that. And so here's the thought. Why don't you do this? 3 things. Do what I did. 3 things. Add to your quiet time. 3 things. Add to your prayer life. Add to your journaling. Add to your daily devotion with God. 3 things that you can get up in the morning and I can be grateful for. And you can pray for. And you can celebrate. 3 things that he's brought in my life. 3 things that he's done. Reminding myself of that he's still there. He's still with me. And then we celebrate. We give thanks and we give praise and we give adoration because of these things that he's done in our lives. The reality is you are blessed. We just forget it. We don't realize it. One of the biggest stresses in life, according to some research, is being stuck in traffic. Stuck at the traffic lights, stuck at roadworks, dealing with traffic. And what it highlights is that it's not that it's dangerous or anything like that. The stressor is that it's out of our control. Like you can't control how fast that person moves off at the traffic lights so that you can get through the traffic lights. You can't control that. You can't control if there's roadworks. You can't control if there's an accident. You can't control that thing. But what you can control, what stresses it out, usually isn't the size of the problems in our lives, but our perceived lack of control over them. What you can control, you can't control the circumstances, but what you can control, just like what Paul and Silas did, they could control their response. They could control what they did in that. They could control or they could choose what they were to focus on. And we can do the same thing. We can make a choice to choose where we place our focus, where we place our gaze, where we place our attention. The thought is this. They could decide whether to complain about their chains or to sing about their Savior. We get to do the same. In your figurative prison, you get to do the same. Complain or sing. Complain or meditate on 3 things. Complain or give thanks. The choice is yours. He's wanting to liberate you from anything that imprisons your emotions. The liberation from that comes from a reminder that he's already working in that. He's already working in that. So this week, maybe this month, maybe this year, when life starts to escalate, when it's like, well, that escalated fast. When life starts to escalate, choose to shift your focus. Start to do this. Start to pray. Start to give thanks. Start to reflect on God's goodness. Start to shift your gaze, shift your focus. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for each day. Sing. Even if it's just in the car. Maybe it should just be in the car. Sing. Whatever it is, sing, pray, give thanks, be grateful. Remind yourself of the things that the King has given you already. Because the joy of the Lord is not about the absence. The joy of the Lord is not the absence of problems, but it is the presence of perspective. Shift your focus to the King. Shift your focus to what Jesus has already done in your life. Shift your focus to the things that he is continuing to outwork in your life. And that will lead you to a better joy. Let me pray. God, I want to say thank you that you're with us. You're with us in every situation, in every hard time, in every good time. You're there. And with that story of Paul and Silas, you were there with them through the beatings, through the prison times, through the everything, Father. And God, I want to say thank you that the example that they give, Jesus, is an example that we can follow and that we can look to see what it is that you have done, that you will do, that you continue to outwork in our lives. So God, let us be people that pursue you. Let us be people that pursue you in such a way that we remind ourselves of the things that you have done in our lives, the blessings that you have already brought, God. And we allow that to start ministering to our souls and to recognize that no matter the dungeon, no matter the change, no matter how dark it is, that you're never going to leave us there. You're never going to leave me there. And so, God, I pray that you inject our hearts and lives and minds with boldness, Father, to be able to do whatever it is that we need to do, Father, to be able to search our lives to find the blessings that you've already given us, God. And I pray that as we start doing that, Father, as we start deliberately pressing into that, God, that you remind us of your presence in our lives. That no matter how dark it's been, God, that you remind us that you're still there, that you're still going with us, that you're still with us no matter what's happening. You remind us, and that starts to shift our perspective. That starts to shift our focus. That starts to shift our gaze towards you, Father. And God, I pray that as we do that, Jesus, it leads us towards our suddenly moments where all the chains fall off. And ultimately, Jesus, I pray that as we do that, that leads us towards better joy. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Yeah, wasn't that great? Yeah. Just a great reminder of where is our focus. What are we focusing on? We can focus so much on the negative that we forget that joy is there. It's ours to choose, isn't it? When we focus on God. So we are about to head out for some tea and coffee, which is great. For those that are new, please feel free to go up the back. There is the welcome team up the back, and they'll love to get to know you as well. And this Wednesday, we have coffees at Epicentre at 10 a.m. and youth have Undivided on Friday. So have a great week. If anyone would like some prayer, feel free to come up the front as well.